You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to Proof Text. I'm Michael Halcomb here with J.M. Smith, the sensei himself. And J.M., you doing all right?
I'm doing well, my friend. Doing very well.
Nice. Rocking the custom Disciple Dojo hat there.
Yeah, so I had to find a hat that fits my big head, and so I had to get just a generic like trucker hat, and then I found this cool patch. It's the Hokusai wave, and I was like, oh, that would look great on the hat. So I made it, and then I wrote my little Disciple Dojo here, so it's a custom, one of a kind.
Nice.
I don't think there's going to be overwhelming desire, but the biggest problem was I have a big fat Irish head, and it's hard to find hats that fit. So when I found one, I was like, got on Amazon and was like, look at the manufacturer, get this model, and just order like 3 blank ones.
Huh.
So yeah, that's the problem us big head people have.
You by the way, I don't know why I just thought of this. You still do like drawing, like baseball cards and stuff like that, or you still do that?
It's rare. I don't do it I don't do it as a side job anymore. The ministry has kind of taken over that. But yeah, I did that that's how Disciple Dojo stayed afloat the first 10 years, was me doing portraits and artwork. So
yeah, you were working with like Tops, right, for a while.
Yeah, if you jump on eBay, you can usually, if you do J.M. Smith Tops sketch cards, every now and then my work will pop up. Walking Dead cards, Star Wars, UFC, Major League Baseball. I pop on every now and then and just see like what collectors have found out there and what they're asking for it. I don't get any money from it, but it's always fun to see what they're going for.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Well, let's get a verse going here. This is another Old Testament passage, and those of you who are watching or listening, where we're at today is Ezekiel 23:20. Ezekiel 23:20. It should be popping up on the screen here. Ezekiel 23:20. And oh my goodness. Here we go. The NIV. This seems scandalous. The NIV, Ezekiel 23:20. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emission was like that of horses. What? What? Oh, I can't help but laugh at that. That's a funny description. I mean, I can't, dude, legitimately, I can't imagine standing in the pulpit and making a joke like that in a sermon and everybody being okay with it.
Yeah. Oh, this would get you run out of a lot of churches if you preach this.
I mean, this is wild. So, what do we do with this? And, it seems, this does seem like one of the most X-rated passages in all of Scripture.
I think this is it. I think this is number one of all the R-rated, X-rated Scripture. Ezekiel 23, nothing comes close to it.
Yeah, even the preceding verses. I mean, oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah, and after. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Babylonians came and defiled her. She carried on prostitution openly, and yet she became even more and more promiscuous. And she lusted after her lovers. Their genitals were like donkeys. They had huge emissions. And they were lewd, and they caressed her bosom and fondled her chest. And dude, this is this the one too where she's sitting on the street corner, flashing people? Is that this one, or I can't remember. That one's pretty graphic too. I can't remember what passage that is, but this seems like it should be in this neighborhood.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head because there are other prophetic passages about I will pull up their skirt and pelt them with filth and like flash. Yeah, it's a lot of disturbing and a lot of scholars that I've heard are like this is like misogyny almost or rape fantasy or just all these horrendous like these are really controversial sections of the prophets. And yeah, so what in the world do you do with it?
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's be I'll kick off with my first question is why is this in our Bible? What possible if all scripture is God breathed and useful for rebuke and reproof and correcting and training in righteousness, how in the world does this do that? That'd be my driving question going into a study of this passage.
yeah, that's a great question. I have like a two-part question here. Um, who is she? She lusted, and who are the lovers that she's lusting after? So who is she, and who are they? What was your last question? The one you just asked? It was
My
what do we
first
do
one was
with
just
this?
what possible
All right.
why is something so profane? How does this convey anything about God or righteousness or
Okay. Yeah.
holiness? Yeah. So that's my first question. And yours is who is she? Who are the she in this passage?
Yeah, who is she and who are they? Who are the lovers?
Mm-hmm. Um my my next question is going to be where is NIV and other English King James does it as well. How are they translating that clause? Because as I'm reading it, and you can tell me if you're reading something different, but it's and she lusted tegava upon her concubines, their Pilagesh, Shahim, who, and then it says Basar Chamorim, who flesh of donkeys, Basaram, their flesh. So who flesh of donkeys, whose flesh were like flesh of donkeys, and Zimrath, and I'm seeing that is the word for penis, like phallic.
Mm-hmm.
And Zimrach of horses, their Zimrach. So their flesh was like flesh of donkeys, and their penis like penis of horses, basically. Where are they getting idea of emission from? Because that's not what the Hebrew says. Or is this a euphemism, or is it, you know, I haven't even looked at the Septuagint, but
Yeah, so
Septuagint just looks like genital.
so that
So
tzirma,
where's emissions coming from in all of this? Because King James it says issue,
yeah,
and NIV says it, but I don't see that in the Hebrew or the Greek.
tzirma is glossed as discharge, but it seems to be relating it to tsaram and tserem, which is like a flood and a storm.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
I
don't
don't see.
know.
Accordance has it glossed as penis, and then in Hallet it just says phallus, rod, penis. Um,
Hmm.
Alternately explained as ejaculation in the Vulgate.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe in Latin
Yeah,
from Zerum.
we can look at that. Huh.
Okay, Zerum is for heavy rain, cloudburst.
Yeah, right. Tserem.
So if they're taking that coming from Zerum, then I guess that would be okay. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this in Greek, the edua is, pudenda, in Latin, genitals. Well, what else is interesting? In the Septuagint, we don't have concubines for pilgash. In the Hebrew, in the Septuagint, we have Chaldeus, Chaldeans. And so my previous question was, who are the lovers? Well, the Septuagint is telling us that she's lusting upon the Chaldeans. So how does my next question's the difference between the Septuagint and the Hebrew? How do we get from concubines to Chaldeans? You know, I have some theories about that. I'm not going to say them because we're not answering, but that's the question. How do we get from concubines to Chaldeans?
All right. What am I at? 3? Yeah, my third. My third question would be, what contextually, what is being, so is this as like the way that the way it's worded? I mean, just look at the English, some of these English translations, like the NRS, like the New Revised, has and lusted after her paramours there, whose members were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of stallions. That sounds clinical almost, or very like dry. Is the Hebrew, and would this have been heard in Hebrew, not just the subject matter, but even the language itself? Would this have been heard as vulgar and crass and shocking? Like, was this intended to be explicit R-rated language in Hebrew? And if so, should English translations bring that out, using slang, or like should it make us,
right?
Translators have to wrestle with this. How crass should you be if the passage itself is trying to be crass? Keeping in mind that you may have to preach or teach through this in a Bible study. What do you do with that? Which, as somebody that works in languages, translators have to make those decisions all the time. But yeah, that's my question. How would this sound to the original Hebrew reader or hearer listening to it?
Man, there is I'll tell you what, there's a lot of S sounds and like a lot of hissing sounds in here, which is very, very interesting to me. Higashehem Asher Bashar, Hamareim Bashar, Basharam, and then you have Vitzramat Susim, Tsirmatam, a lot of T and S sounds, which are kind of fascinating to me, just thinking about the phonology. So yeah, you pick on something even at the phonological level, the syllable level in Hebrew, and there is a lot going on there.
This is an aside, and it's not a question of the text, but it's a question of modern Hebrew. That Zimrath, that sound, isn't Zion the modern Hebrew slang for penis? Like I feel like I've heard that the letter Zion has become sort of the, like, if not slang, shorthand.
Yeah.
That, I don't know why, that's just in the back of my head, and if that is true, I'm wondering if that even comes into play in any of this. But that could be completely false, and modern Hebrew viewer could be like, no, you're an idiot. And I will gladly concede that. But I just feel like I've heard that Zion is, in modern Hebrew, that's how you would represent or say or write the word for penis.
Yeah, I mean, the letter itself looks, it's representative. So that's not hard to see.
Yeah, without getting crass, like an uncircumcised, or I mean a circumcised penis. That's what the Zion with the little head at the top is. I feel like that's what I've heard. Now, How true that is, I don't know. There's a lot of nonsense out there about Hebrew and the letters and their meaning, so I'm not trying to say that for sure, but just curious.
Right.
This is all about being curious, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Wow. Boy, that adds an interesting perspective. Yeah, I don't know about the slang of that. I hadn't heard that before. So yeah, I mean, this is all right. So you're talking about the tech being crass. Is the person saying? All right, who is saying this? I guess that's going to be my next question. Then I have a follow up for my next one. Who is saying this? Who's telling us that she lusted after her lovers? Is this the voice of God? Is this one of the prophets? Who is this? Somebody else? Who is this? Who's saying this?
Yeah, that's a really profound and interesting question. Knowing the answer is a tremendously important question to ask. Am I on 5?
I don't know. Sure.
I'm so busy blushing, I can't
It
keep
might
up.
be 4, but
I don't know
maybe
how many I've asked.
that's all right. We'll just see. Yeah.
My question is, this parable, this section, which is a parable,
I didn't know that.
we're not allowed to answer, so that's all I can just knowing that this is a parable. Bigger question with Ezekiel: why is Ezekiel the priest? Why is his signs or his words or the things he has to do or say so overtly disgusting so many times? Like what God has him do or say seems to be filled with image, like wording, and I mean images like this that are intentionally not things you talk about. They're intentionally shameful or degrading or disgusting, revolting. And that's like, why Ezekiel the priest would God give with God's concern elsewhere with priesthoods? Priests were all about cleanliness and propriety and unclean versus clean, and all of that. And then you'd have Ezekiel is like the almost dirtiest prophet or most revolting in terms of the imagery. Why? And what is that saying about the theology of Ezekiel and of the prophets in general?
Okay, so my 5th question is, does it say more about Ezekiel that we think what he says here is dirty, or does it say more about us that we might be offended by this, hearing this, right? With all the Gaza stuff going on, right? People refuse to watch video clips, see it in real life, or to look at real life pictures of it. Once you see that stuff, in a sense, it's hard to unsee it.
Right.
But does that say more about us that we refuse to look at it, or does it say more about the person who took the picture in the first place? Or what does it say about each party, in other words? Yeah, what does it say about Ezekiel that he wrote this? But even more, what does it say about us that we find it reprehensible, or to not sanitized enough?
Yeah.
I have a idea what this is about. You mentioned it was a parable. I have an idea what it's about. and it seems like sometimes like the graphic needs to just be put before our eyes so we can't sanitize it anymore.
Right. Right.
You
Well,
know.
that's this whole series, these couple of videos we've done on passages that you're not going to see a precious moments woven quilt with these verses in a Baptist bookstore, like you're not, and we joke about it, but at the same time, these are the inspired words of scripture
Yeah.
that Jesus read and claimed to embody. God allowed these along with the imprecatory Psalms and other things that make us uncomfortable. And I think it's crucial that we not only know that this is in scripture, but know what it is and why it's in scripture and what it does mean. So hopefully hopefully viewers are really either disturbed or curious, or maybe a little of both, to go and understand what's happening in Ezekiel 23.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Wow. It's really interesting. Is it a slight? I mean, it's a bonus question. Is it a slight to be, because like, at least in this culture, like, dude, you're built like a donkey, or, dude, those Chaldeans are, hung like a horse, like, was that a slight in this time, or would they have been like, "You're right, I am," was it a, men sort of brag about that thing today, but that
Yeah.
kind of thing today, but was that necessarily the case in the ancient world? Because he seems to be using it as a slight, not only against them, but also against her. Whoever her is, she is. So that's kind of fascinating. Yeah. Woo. Man. Well, yeah. Thanks for the insights.
I know we're
Questions.
not
Go
allowed
ahead.
to give answers, and I won't give
Yeah.
an answer, but I do want to say to viewers, if you are wanting to understand this, one of the best treatments of this I know of is Christopher Wright's The Message of Ezekiel, little paperback commentary. Is a fascinating and easy to read for anybody watching this. So it would be a shame to leave viewers without anything. I'm like, okay, now what? Where do I go? So if you are wondering how do I, that'd be my recommendation to look there first.
Great. Yeah, he's got some great stuff. I know he's one of your favorites too. Yeah.
Anything he reads, anything he's written, you should read.
Yeah. Well, let's stop there with this insane passage and wrap it up. And we will thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Head over to discipledojo.org. Is it org? Yeah.
.org,
and then the YouTube page as well, youtube.com/@discipledojo, and then same thing at Glosa House, they're on YouTube, and then check out the rest of the podcast, glosahouse.com. Some great resources. Help us spread the word. We'd really appreciate it. Jaya, man, thanks for your time.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, wow. Good passages. So we'll maybe find some more of these gems and keep exploring. So thanks everyone. We'll stop there and say we hope that helped.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glosa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glosa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glosahouse.com today. Glosa House, language resources for the global community.